The bank representative's voice was confused. Ms. Carter, I'm calling because there's a discrepancy in your parents' estate planning documents. You're listed as the primary beneficiary on several accounts, but their attorney just submitted a new will that removes you entirely. We need to verify which documents are valid. I hadn't even known my parents had updated their will, and I definitely didn't know I'd been erased from it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. My name is Julia, and I'm 35 years old. I'm a pediatric nurse at a children's hospital in Portland, Oregon. I've worked there for 12 years, mostly night shifts, mostly holidays. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment 10 minutes from the hospital, single, no kids, no pets, just me and my work. I have one younger brother. Owen is 31. He's married to a woman named Stephanie, and they have 3 kids. He works in real estate, though works is a generous term. He's never held a job for more than 18 months. Growing up, Owen was the star of our family, charismatic, popular, athletic. Everything came easy to him, or rather, everything was handed to him on a silver platter. I was the responsible one, the one who got good grades because I had to, the one who worked part-time in high school because I wanted spending money, the one who paid for my own college because my parents said they couldn't afford it. Meanwhile, Owen got a car at 16, a brand new Honda Civic. I drove my mom's old minivan when she didn't need it. Owen got his college paid for. All 4 years at a private university, I worked full-time while going to community college, then transferred to finish my nursing degree. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was being invisible. When I graduated nursing school, my parents didn't come to the ceremony. Owen has a basketball tournament, my mom said. You understand? I understood that I came second. When I got my first job at the hospital, I called to tell them. My dad said, "That's great, honey. Hey, can you call back later? We're at Owen's real estate licensing celebration." I learned to stop expecting anything. Not praise, not presents, not priority, and I thought I'd made peace with that. I was wrong. 3 months ago, my dad had a health scare, a minor heart attack. He was in the hospital for 4 days. I wasn't working that week, so I spent every day at his bedside. Brought him books, made sure he was comfortable, talked to his doctors about his care plan. My mom was there too, of course. But Owen showed up once. For 20 minutes. "I've got a huge closing this week," he said, checking his phone. "I'll come back when Dad's home." He never did. While Dad was recovering, he and my mom started talking about getting their affairs in order. "We're not getting any younger," my dad said. "We need to update our estate plan." "That's smart," I said. "Do you have a current will?" "We have an old one," my mom said, "from when you kids were teenagers, but it needs updating." "Let me know if you need help finding an attorney," I offered. "We already have one lined up," my dad said. "Owen gave us a recommendation. We're meeting with him next week." Owen recommended someone. Of course he did. A month later, my mom mentioned over lunch that they'd finished updating their estate documents. We were at a small cafe near the hospital. Just the 2 of us. We met with the attorney Owen suggested. She said, "Got everything updated and organized. Such a relief to have it done." "I'm glad you took care of it, Mom." "We made sure everything's fair," she said, stirring her coffee. "Split evenly between you and your brother." I nodded. I hadn't really thought much about their estate. They weren't wealthy, but they owned their house. Had some retirement accounts, a modest nest egg, nothing life-changing. "I'm just glad you have peace of mind," I said. "Well, Owen really pushed us to handle it. He said it was important to protect the family." Protect the family. I wondered if I counted as family in that equation. I didn't think about it again. Until my phone rang on a Tuesday morning. I was sleeping after a 12-hour night shift when my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it, but the caller ID said First National Bank, the bank where my parents kept their accounts. "Hello?" I answered groggily. "Ms. Julia Carter?" "Yes, this is she." "This is Rebecca Chen from First National Bank. I'm calling regarding your parents' accounts. Robert and Linda Carter." My heart lurched. Are they okay? Did something happen? "Oh, no, they're perfectly fine. I apologize for alarming you. This is regarding estate planning documentation." I exhaled slowly. "Okay, what about it?" "We have you listed as the primary beneficiary on several of your parents' accounts. Their savings account, money market account, and a certificate of deposit that's maturing soon." "Oh," I said, surprised. "I didn't know that." Yes, these beneficiary designations were established approximately 15 years ago. However, we've just received updated estate planning documents from their attorney, and there's a significant discrepancy. I sat up in bed. What kind of discrepancy? The new will that was filed removes you as a beneficiary entirely and lists only your brother, Owen Carter. However, the bank account beneficiary forms still have you designated. We need to verify which documents reflect your parents' actual intentions. My stomach dropped. I'm sorry, can you repeat that? The will submitted by their attorney removes you from inheriting anything, but bank beneficiary designations supersede wills, so we need clarification on whether they intended to update the beneficiary forms to match the new will. I couldn't find words. Ms. Carter, are you still there? Yes, I managed. When was this new will submitted? It was filed with us on May 3rd. 2 weeks ago, right after. My mom looked me in the eye and told me everything was split evenly. She'd lied. I thanked Rebecca and ended the call, sat frozen in my bed staring at the wall. My parents had written me out of their will. Completely. And never said a word. My mom had smiled at me over coffee and said, "Everything's fair," while knowing she'd erased me from their estate. I called her immediately. My hands were shaking. "Hi, sweetheart," she answered brightly. "Mom, I just got a call from First National Bank." Pause. The bank. About beneficiary designations. They said you and Dad submitted a new will that removes me entirely. Long silence. "Mom, Julia, let me call you back. I need to talk to your father first." "No, we're talking about this now. We need to discuss this privately before—" "You already discussed it privately when you cut me out." She sighed heavily. "Julia, you have to understand. Owen needs the money more than you do." 5 words that shattered everything I thought I knew. "Owen needs it more?" I repeated slowly. "He has 3 children, Julia. 3 kids who'll need college tuition, a mortgage payment, a family to support. You're single. You have a stable career. You don't need our help the way he does. So you just decided I don't deserve anything. It's not about deserving. Then what is it about? You told me 2 weeks ago that everything was split evenly. We were planning to tell you eventually." "When? After you died and I found out at the reading of the will?" My mom's voice hardened. "We have to think about our grandchildren, Julia. Owen's children are our legacy. What do you have to leave behind?" The words hit like a physical blow. "What do you have?" I hung up, sat there shaking, and I didn't know then, but the truth was so much worse than I imagined. I couldn't sleep after that. My mind kept spinning. Owen needs it more. What do you have? I had spent 12 years working night shifts so parents could be home with their kids during the day. I'd covered every holiday so my coworkers could be with their families. I'd paid for my own education while Owen got a free ride to a private university. I'd sat by my father's hospital bed alone while Owen couldn't be bothered to visit. And they decided I didn't matter because I didn't have children, because my life didn't fit their definition of valuable. I called the bank back. "Ms. Chen, this is Julia Carter again. Can you tell me exactly how much is in the accounts where I'm currently listed as beneficiary?" She pulled up the information. "Let me see. Your parents' savings account currently has $127,000, the money market account has $83,000, and the certificate of deposit has $45,000. That's a total of $255,000, $250,000 that they were trying to take from me. Without a conversation, without an explanation, just erased. And these beneficiary designations, they legally override whatever the will says?" That's correct. Bank beneficiary forms supersede will instructions. So currently, if anything happened to your parents, you would receive these funds regardless of what their will states. What if they want to change the beneficiary forms? They would need to come into a branch in person with valid identification and sign new designation forms. It's not something that can be done online or over the phone. And would I be notified if they did that? Yes. When a beneficiary is removed from an account, we're required to send a courtesy notification letter to that person. So they couldn't just erase me silently. They'd have to tell me eventually. Thank you, I said quietly, and I started forming a plan. I didn't call my parents back. I ignored their calls, let them sit with the discomfort. I went to work and functioned on autopilot, smiled at patients, checked vitals, changed IVs. But inside, I was reeling. 2 days later, my brother called. Jules, what's going on? Mom's having a meltdown. Did she tell you about the will? Pause. What about it? You don't know? Know what? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. They wrote me out of it completely. Everything goes to you now. Silence on the other end. Owen? I didn't know they were doing that. Really? You didn't know? You're the one who recommended the attorney. Yeah, but I just gave them a name. I didn't know they were planning to cut you out. Did you ask them to? What? No. Julia, why would I? Because you need it more, apparently, because you have kids and I'm just a lonely spinster with nothing to show for my life. Julia, I swear to God, I had no idea. Sure you didn't. I hung up on him too. But something about his reaction stuck with me. Owen had sounded genuinely shocked, which meant he wasn't the one who'd put this idea in their heads. Someone else had. That night at work, I couldn't focus. I kept replaying conversations in my head, trying to figure out when this had started. And then I remembered something. 6 months ago, at Thanksgiving dinner, Owen's wife, Stephanie, had made a comment. We were all sitting around the table, and my dad had mentioned their retirement planning. We're in pretty good shape, he'd said. Should be able to leave you kids something substantial when we're gone. Stephanie had looked up from her plate. That's so generous of you both. Though I'm sure Julia doesn't need it as much as we do. Raising 3 kids is incredibly expensive. It had seemed like a casual observation at the time, but now. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through old text conversations with my mom, and there it was. 4 months ago. Mom. Had lunch with Stephanie today. She's such a wonderful mother. Me. That's nice. Mom. She was talking about college savings for the kids. I had no idea how expensive education has gotten. 3 months ago. Mom. Stephanie mentioned an estate attorney she and Owen used. She thinks we should update our planning. 2 months ago. Mom. Meeting with that. Attorney Stephanie recommended next week. She's been so helpful explaining everything. Stephanie. Owen's wife had been whispering in my parents' ears for months. Planting seeds, watering them, and they'd done exactly what she wanted. I remembered something else from that Christmas. My mom had pulled me aside while everyone else was in the living room. We stood alone in the kitchen, putting away leftovers. I worry about you, Julia, she'd said quietly. I'm fine, Mom. But you're all alone. You work so much. Don't you ever want what Owen and Stephanie have? A family? She'd put her hand on my arm. Her eyes were genuinely concerned. I just want you to be happy, to have someone take care of you, to have children who'll be there when you're old. And for a moment, I'd seen it. She wasn't trying to hurt me. She genuinely believed my life was incomplete, that I was missing something essential, that I was somehow less than Owen because I'd chosen a different path. In her mind, she was protecting me, making sure the money went where it was needed. I'd almost understood. But then we'd gone back to the living room, and Owen had announced they were buying a bigger house. And my parents had offered to help with the down payment while I'd been working a double shift at the hospital. So my coworkers could spend Christmas with their families, and any sympathy I'd felt had evaporated. 1 week after the bank called, I received a letter, official, certified mail, from First National Bank. Notice of beneficiary change request. My parents had submitted the paperwork. They were officially trying to remove me from all the accounts. I had 30 days to contest it. My hands shook as I read the letter. I called the bank immediately. Ms. Chen, I just received the notice. Can they really remove me without my consent? Unfortunately, yes, she said. The account owner has the legal right to change beneficiaries at any time, even if I was named 15 years ago. Yes, I understand this is difficult. I'm sorry. So in 30 days, I'm just gone? If you don't file a contest and the forms are processed, yes, you would no longer be the beneficiary. How do I contest it? You would need to file a legal challenge claiming either diminished capacity or undue influence. Essentially, you'd need to prove that your parents weren't of sound mind when making this decision or that someone coerced or manipulated them into it. Undue influence, Stephanie. What kind of evidence would I need? Documentation showing a pattern of manipulation, emails, text messages, recorded conversations. Proof that someone with a financial interest pressured your parents to make these changes. I thought about the text messages, all those mentions of Stephanie, the helpful estate attorney, the conversations about college funds. Thank you, I said. And I knew what I had to do. I drove to my parents' house the next day. They'd gone to visit Owen's family for the weekend, but I still had a key from years ago. I told myself I was just looking for documents, for proof of what Stephanie had done. What I found was so much worse. In my dad's home office, sitting on his desk, was a manila folder. Estate planning, 2024, written on the tab. Inside were notes from attorney meetings, handwritten notes in my dad's messy scrawl, and emails. Printed emails. I sat down and started reading. The first email was from Stephanie to my mother, dated 4 months earlier. Linda, I've been thinking about our conversation over lunch. I really believe you should consider allocating more resources to Owen's family. Julia has her career and no dependents. She'll be perfectly fine on her own. But Owen and I are trying to provide your grandchildren with every opportunity, and we could really use the financial support. I know an excellent estate attorney who specializes in tax-efficient planning. His name is David Morrison, and he's helped several of our friends. He could help you structure things properly. Let me know if you'd like his contact information. Love, Stephanie. My mother's response. That makes a lot of sense. Julia has always been so independent and self-sufficient. She doesn't need us the way Owen's family does. Please send me David's information. I kept reading. There were more emails. Stephanie explaining how to restructure assets. Stephanie suggesting they update beneficiary designations. Stephanie calculating projected college costs for the 3 kids. Stephanie, and my parents agreeing to everything, thanking her for her guidance, praising her thoughtfulness. But that wasn't the worst part. There was another email in the stack from Owen to Stephanie. Why did my dad have this printed out? Steph, I told you to drop the inheritance thing with my parents. Julia's going to find out eventually, and it's going to blow up the whole family. Just let mom and dad make their own decisions about their estate. Oh, Stephanie's response. Your parents are splitting everything 50-50 because they feel obligated, not because it makes financial sense. You have 3 children to raise and educate. Julia has nobody. She doesn't need that money. I'm not going to sit back and watch half of your inheritance go to someone who doesn't need it when our children could benefit from it. Your parents need guidance, and I'm providing it. Let me handle this. Owen's response, fine, do what you want. Just don't tell me the details. I don't want to know. He'd known, maybe not every detail, but he'd known Stephanie was manipulating our parents. And he'd consciously chosen to look the other way because it benefited him. I sat in my father's office for over an hour, holding those printed emails, reading them again and again. Part of me wanted to just leave, let them have the money, cut contact, and build a life without them. But another part of me was burning with rage. Not about the inheritance itself, about what it represented. They'd decided my life had no value. Because I didn't have children. Because I'd chosen career over family. Because I didn't need them. My worth as a daughter, as a person, had been measured and found wanting. I thought about being the bigger person, about letting it go, about taking the high road. But then I thought about all those night shifts, all those holidays worked, all those hours at my dad's hospital bedside while Owen was too busy. All those years of being second place. And I thought about my mother's words. What do you have? I pulled out my phone, took photos of every single email, every note, every document in that folder, and I made a decision. I called an estate attorney first thing Monday morning, not the one Stephanie had recommended, a different one. I have documentation showing undue influence in my parents' estate planning, I explained. I need to know my legal options. I sent her everything I'd photographed. She called me back 2 hours later. Ms. Carter, this is one of the clearest cases of undue influence I've seen. Your sister-in-law systematically manipulated your parents over several months to disinherit you in favor of her husband. Can I stop them from changing the beneficiary designations? Absolutely. We file an emergency motion for a temporary restraining order preventing any changes to the accounts until this matter is resolved. We can also petition to have the new will declared invalid due to undue influence. What are the chances of that working? Given this documentation, very strong. Your parents are elderly, one just had a serious health scare, and someone with a direct financial interest systematically influenced them. This is textbook undue influence. What happens next? We file the motion. Your parents and your brother will be served with legal papers. They'll have to decide whether to fight this in court or negotiate a settlement. And if they fight, then we go to trial. And all of these emails become part of the public record. Everything Stephanie did becomes public. I thought about that, about my parents' embarrassment, about family secrets being exposed in court, about the fallout. Then I thought about my mother saying, "What do you have?" "File it," I said. My parents were served with legal papers 3 days later, at their home, by a process server. My father called me within the hour. His voice was shaking with rage. "What the hell is this, Julia? You're suing us." "I'm protecting my legal rights." "That money is ours. We can leave it to whoever we damn well please. Not when someone manipulates you into changing your will through systematic deception." "Nobody manipulated us. We made our own decision." "I have emails from Stephanie." Dead silence. "What emails?" "The ones where she tells Mom to disinherit me. The ones where she calculates how much Owen's family needs. The ones where she recommends her handpicked attorney." Should I go on? More silence. "Where did you get those?" "That doesn't matter. What matters is I have proof that Stephanie orchestrated this entire thing, and unless you want it all to become public record in court, you're going to leave the beneficiary designations exactly as they are." "You're blackmailing your own parents?" "I'm defending myself against being erased from your lives." My mother grabbed the phone. "Julia, please, we're your parents. You can't sue your own family." "You wrote me out of your will and lied to my face about it, Mom." "We were trying to do what's best for everyone." "What's best for Owen, you mean? What about what's best for me?" "Owen has responsibilities. He has children to raise and educate. You're alone, Julia. You don't need—" "I'm family," I shouted. "Or doesn't that matter anymore? Am I not part of this family because I don't have kids?" She started crying. "That's not what this is about." "Then what is it about, Mom? Tell me, why am I worth nothing to you?" She couldn't answer, just cried. "Drop the beneficiary changes," I said coldly, "or I'll see you in court. And Stephanie's emails will be Exhibit A." I hung up. 2 hours later, my phone rang again. "Owen." "Julia, we need to talk." "About how your wife manipulated our parents into disinheriting me." I didn't know the full extent of what she was doing. "Bullshit, you knew enough. You told her to stop and she didn't, and you let it happen anyway because it benefited you." Long pause. "You're right." I was surprised. "What?" "You're right. I knew Stephanie was in their ear. I knew she was pushing them to give me more, and I told myself it was fine because I wanted the money." His voice cracked. "I'm sorry, Jules. I'm really, truly sorry. I should have stopped her. I should have stood up for you." "Sorry doesn't fix this, Owen." "I know, but I want to try. I confronted Stephanie, told her what she did was wrong, and I talked to Mom and Dad. And I told them that if they don't restore you to the will as a 50-50 beneficiary, I'll refuse the entire inheritance, all of it. I'll sign a legal document refusing it." I was stunned into silence. "You... what?" "I mean it. What Stephanie did was manipulative and wrong. What I allowed to happen was wrong, and I'm not going to profit from it." "Owen, they're calling their attorney tomorrow. They're going to redo everything. The will, the beneficiary forms, all of it. 50-50 split like it should have been from the start." I didn't know what to say. "Why are you doing this?" He was quiet for a moment. "Because Stephanie was right about one thing. You don't need their money. You've built an incredible life completely on your own. You're independent and successful and strong. He paused. But that doesn't mean you don't deserve it. And it doesn't mean you don't matter. You're my sister. You matter. And I'm sorry I ever let anyone make you feel like you don't. I felt tears running down my face. Thank you, I whispered. My parents called. The next day, asked me to drop the lawsuit, promised they were fixing everything. I didn't drop it immediately. I waited, verified. 2 weeks later, my attorney received new estate planning documents. She reviewed every page. Everything was split 50-50. The beneficiary forms were unchanged. A new will had been drafted, replacing the one Stephanie had influenced. Only then did I withdraw the lawsuit. My attorney sent one final letter to my parents' attorney, making it clear that if they ever tried this again, we'd be right back in court. And that was that. The next few months were awkward, tense. We barely spoke. I didn't go to family dinners, didn't call, kept my distance. Stephanie stopped attending family events entirely. Owen told me they were in counseling. I didn't ask for details. My mom tried to rebuild the bridge, called me every week, never mentioned the will, just talked about small things, the weather, a recipe she'd tried, a show she was watching. I kept the conversation short. Polite but distant. 6 months after everything blew up, my dad had another heart incident. Smaller than the first, but still scary. I went to the hospital. Owen was already in the waiting room. We sat together in silence for a while. I'm glad you came, he finally said. He's my father, too. I know. I'm sorry we ever made you feel like you weren't as much a part of this family as I am. I looked at him, really looked at my younger brother, the one who'd always had everything handed to him, who'd finally stood up and done the right thing when it mattered. Thank you, I said, for what you did. With the inheritance, you didn't have to. Yes, I did. It was the least I could do. We sat together until the doctor came out. Dad was fine, going to be okay. A month after that, my mom asked if I'd come to Sunday dinner. Just family. No Stephanie. I almost said no, but something made me say yes. It was awkward at first. We all sat around the table making small talk, passing dishes, avoiding the elephant in the room. Finally, my dad cleared his throat. Julia, I need to say something. Everyone got quiet. I was wrong about the will, about making you feel like your life didn't matter because you chose not to have children. His eyes were red. Your mother and we let someone else's voice become louder than our own judgment. We let Stephanie convince us that Owen needed the money more because he has kids. And in doing that, we told you that your life, your choices weren't valuable. He looked directly at me. That was wrong, and I'm sorry. My mom was crying. I'm sorry too, sweetheart. I said terrible things to you, asked you what you had to show for your life, as if your career, your independence, your kindness, as if none of that mattered. She reached across the table. It matters. You matter, and I'm so, so sorry. I felt the tears coming. Thank you. I mean it, my dad continued. You're an incredible nurse. You save children's lives. You work nights and holidays so other people can be with their families. You sat by my bedside when I was sick. You're devoted and selfless and strong. His voice broke. That's a legacy. That's a life that matters. And I'm ashamed that I ever suggested otherwise. I couldn't speak, just nodded. We ate dinner, and for the first time in months, it felt like family. I'm sitting in my apartment right now, the same one-bedroom place I've had for years. The updated estate documents are in a folder in my closet. I haven't looked at them in months because this was never really about the money. It was about being seen, about being valued, about being treated like my life, my choices, my existence mattered just as much as Owen's. My parents rewrote their will without telling me, tried to erase me from their legacy, decided my life had less value because it looked different from what they expected. But the bank called about the missing beneficiary. And I fought back, not because I needed their inheritance, but because I needed them to understand that I'm enough, exactly as I am, with or without children, with or without a husband, with or without their approval. My life has value, my choices matter, I matter, and now they know it too. Last week, I got a card in the mail from my mom. Inside was a simple message. Julia, I was cleaning out some old photos and found this one of you at your nursing school graduation. I should have been there. I'm sorry I wasn't. I'm framing it and putting it on the mantle, right next to Owen's family photos. Because you're just as important. You always were. Love, Mom. The photo was enclosed, me in my cap and gown, holding my diploma, smiling despite being alone. I'm getting it framed too, for my apartment. Not because I need their validation anymore, but because I finally have it. And that feels like closure. They tried to write me out. I wrote myself back in. And in doing so, I wrote my own story, one where I'm the hero, not the forgotten daughter, not the one who didn't measure up, just me, Julia, and that's enough.